Welcome everybody to day something of the quarantine, and we're gonna make a house in Revit. So just to show you the house that we're gonna make, or something like it. I'm not gonna buy these plans or anything, but I'm just gonna go off the pictures. So we're gonna use this as inspiration, but to give you a heads up, something super simple, and this is what we're gonna make. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is go to Model and click on New. So when this shows up, you're going to see this little prompt. It's going to say, what template do you want? And we're going to click Architecture. Architectural template. Alright, give you a really brief, quick tour of Revit. These little guys right here are basically like tripods with cameras on them. Those are your different elevations. So we want to make sure we design everything we do right in this area. This is obviously your workspace. This is your ribbon. It's a lot like AutoCAD if you use any of those. This right here is your properties, everything you need to know about whatever it is you're clicking on, including the views, which we are right now down here in our project browser. So we're on floor plan level 1, and yours will probably say project 1. But right here we can see we're in level 1, and these are actually all the different properties of Revit. Revit is an extremely large beast, and there are so many things we can dive into. You can get into the nitty-gritty, but this is going to be just the basics. Alright, so again, we are on level 1, and we are in floor plans, and let's start making things. But before we do that, go to click on your east elevation just to show you these different levels. They have heights. We are on level 1, and just a naming convention that I like to do is, because this will be placed in alphabetical order over here, I always like to name my first whatever it is 0 0 0 0, and then 0 1, and then 0 all the way up to 09, and then you do 10. And the reason why, because if you ever have more than 10 floors, if you just type 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, once you get to 11, it'll place it all the way back before 2, which is why, really quickly, that's why we do 0 0. Okay, so 0 0, and then what this is going to be is actually the top of the footing for our house. So I'm going to say top of footing, or if you want to write the whole thing out, top of footing. You can keep with the all caps or not, or whatever you want. It's your house, you can name it as long as you know what. Now, I should have stopped right there. When that little thing popped up and said, do you want to whatever, blah blah blah, you want to click yes. And what that's basically saying is, do you want the corresponding floor plan here to rename as well? And you say absolutely. If not, you get into some really iffy problems. So what we're looking at again is the side view, these elevations. We're in elevation east, and we're at level 0 0 and 10 feet. So the first thing we want to do is actually, we're gonna put this 6 feet underground. This house doesn't have a basement, but whoops, can't use that. We want to make sure that we are underneath that frost penetration. Alright, and then we're just going to let's just put it out right now and say, okay, our grade is going to be at 0 0. It's going to be flat, it's going to be easy to work with, and our grade line is going to be at 0 feet. So I actually want this to go up a little bit higher, and I'm going to say, we're going to call this one top, 0 1, top of foundation wall. And say, yep, here it is. Would you like to rename the corresponding views? Absolutely. I probably could have checked that box so that wouldn't ever show up again, but it's a good reminder. Okay, so this I actually want, we'll just make this simple. We'll say 1 foot above the ground. So the foundation wall is actually going to stop 1 foot above the ground, so we have a total here of 7 feet for this foundation wall. All right, one other thing really for beginners is right over here. You have what are called reflected ceiling plans or ceiling plans, and you have floor plans. Floor plans, you're looking down at the actual like things that are on the floor or the level that we're on. 4 feet, usually it's conventionally 4 feet and below. And ceiling planes are actually reversing, if you want to think of it, laying down on the ground and looking up at the ceiling. And we want to make sure we're never in these because we're not going to use that. So just go ahead and hit that little plus sign to get out of that. Make sure you're always working the floor plans for what we are going to do. Alright, so now let's go to the top of foundation wall. Top of foundation wall should look just like this, a nice blank canvas. So we got our blank canvas here, and what we need to do now is make the foundation wall. And so what we're going to use is come up here to wall, go ahead and click that, and under here you got all these preset walls that Revit has with the program, and we can make our own if we want. Get curtain walls, then we got even stacked walls, which are extremely useful. But for this project, all we need to do is go up here and find the foundation 12-inch. Now that is a huge, I mean, for what we're doing, that's pretty big. We don't need it that big. And the next little part, we're just going to modify it anyways, and this will help us understand what's happening. So I go ahead and click edit type, and I have 2 screens over here, so sometimes I gotta drag them over. And so we're in the family of basic walls, and this is the type, foundation 12-inch concrete. We are going to duplicate this right now, and we're gonna change it to 10-inch concrete. Or we could have done 8-inch too. This is a pretty small house. Yeah, let's do 8-inch. Why not? Alright. So this is how thick it is. Now this is just the name. We could have named this cheeseburger. It wouldn't really make any difference. We need to actually now fix the structure of it, which is right down here in this construction parameter. So we have to change the value of this parameter. And right now it's a structural parameter. It's concrete cast in place, which is exactly what we want. But in the thickness over here, we got to change this to 8 inches. Excellent. Go ahead and click OK. You don't need to learn about anything else, but you can see our total thickness. Boom, boom, boom. 8 inches. Alright. And all these other things, you can see how crazy it gets. It's extremely detailed, and you need all this when you're actually building a real high-rise building or a true architectural building in a team and a firm and all that fun stuff. But we're not doing that. We're just learning the basics. So right now we have this new wall, basic wall. It's a foundation wall, and the foundation wall preset actually goes down. It doesn't go up, so it's actually going down, which is why we're on the top of foundation wall. And before we do anything else, it does all this guesswork here, and it starts putting things in, and we have to fix this. And we can either fix it right here underneath the properties bar, or we can fix it up here in this option bar. And I'm going to fix it up here. So you can see depth is grayed out because that's the only choice you have. We don't want to make it unconnected. We want to go down to the footing. So it doesn't matter which one you pick here, but we're going to go down from the top. We're going from the top of our foundation wall that I spelled wrong, and it goes down to the top of footing. Alright, so this house is going to be just a box. Go ahead and click anywhere. Try to keep it towards the middle, but go ahead and click anywhere in here. And as you move, some things about Revit, as you move the cursor, you will see the little dimension will change, and depending on how far you're zoomed in will actually determine that snapping. So now I'm down to 1 inch every time I go way out here. Look at it's doing every 6 inches. If I get super close, I can get down. Now I'm doing every quarter, and so on. So just be very aware of that. You can also just like AutoCAD, you can type this in. So we actually want a 20 by 20 box. So I'm going to type in 20 feet. And by default, this thing is in feet. So if I just go ahead and go to the right now, make sure you lock it out. Type in 20, boom, there you go. And don't worry about this 4, we're going to change that. It's actually what I want it to happen. So because I'm going from the inside edge, I'm actually going to be 8 inches too big. And so right now you can't see anything. If you click on these, you actually can't because we went down through the view. So that's totally okay. And actually we're going to go and we're going to jump into our floor plan footing. So since that went down from, let me change this right now. Spelling is not my strong suit. And say yes, always say yes. And here we go. Alright, so we got 4 walls, and that's the hatch or the pattern for concrete. So we can see that it's definitely a concrete wall, and we got these 4 walls. So right up here, if we're still in the modify tab, I have this little tool called the align dimension. We use this all the time, and we can see exactly how big we made this by using this, or we can actually just click on the walls. But let's use this right now. Now if you move your cursor around, it's going to want to select only the hidden line in the middle, or the center line, even though it looks like a hidden line. Go ahead and hit tab, and tab will cycle through, and you might get a chime that tells you something's wrong or you can't select it. Try moving your cursor over just a little bit. So what I really want is the outside edge, and then I hit tab again once I move my cursor over, outside edge to outside edge. Alright, now you can see that one, it's too big. And this one, too big as well. If you did exterior face, I think it probably would have came out exactly right, but since I did interior, exterior face or something, it did not. But that's super easy to fix. And basically the way you want to think of the dimensions is you want to click the wall that you want to move. So you don't want to trim a wall. Like if I want this 21 4 inches to be smaller, I don't click this one. I actually click this wall because I want this entire wall to move up. So I'm going to change this to 20 feet. Oops, click the bigger one because it's actually going to select the inside. So you actually get 2 dimensions here. You get one from the center and you get the one that we actually made. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I don't want to trim this one up. I actually want to trim this one up. So when you do this, you'll always get a dimension that was from the placement, and you'll also be able to modify the actual dimension that you placed, as long as it's somehow constrained to there. Now some interesting things you can do with the one that shows up that you didn't make is you click these little, what are they calling this, the witness line. I always called that extension line. But you can see now the inside is 20. From center to center, it's 28. And from outside to outside, we're at 24. So I can do that and change this to 20 feet. And look at that. Look at that, that one changed as well. So they all are related and they all see each other. Okay, so we got some walls. Now we're going through orthographic views here, straight to the side or straight up. Let's see what this thing looks like in 3D. So different ways you can do it. Right up here on your quick access bar, you should see a little tiny 3D house thing, or isometric view house, or you can go to view and click right here, 3D view. These are the same thing. This is quick access. This is the one I like to use because I don't have to click on view, but here it is as well, and all your other different views. So we can go ahead and click that. And now you can see your elevations as well as our foundation. So there's our beautiful foundation. Just some other things you can think about when you're doing this. Down here at the bottom are the options to do with this view. So we have a scale, We have detail level. Some things are compounded, especially in its parameters, and you just want to see maybe the edge of it, or maybe you want to see every little thing about it. And so that's the detail level. The next one is the visual style. So if we click on shaded, actually add some color to it. And next to that is sun path. Skip over that, we don't need that. But if you jump over that, shadows, you can turn shadows on. I would not recommend working with shadows on unless you have a pretty good computer, because there will be times where you'll have tons of things on the screen and you'll try to do one of these where you move the view cube around. And how I'm doing that is actually I'm holding and clicking and holding. Click and hold, you can move that all around. I would not recommend working in shadows, but turn it on, look at it, turn it off, go back to work. Now let's talk about this view cube. So we're in 3D, which means I can look at it any which way I want. We can do a front, we can do, click this little arrow, we can do a right side, and it keeps rotating it, as you can see. You can click this and spin it. If you actually click the north, east, southwest, you can click over here when you're in the top view or side view, actually any view. You can click the arrowheads. Some really cool things, especially when you start making really intricate homes or whatever you want to design. So you click these corners so you can see a really cool looking edge view. And then of course you click the top corner and you can see corner. Alright, so our foundation's done. One last thing we want to do in this video is make the footing. Alright, so this one's going to be under structure, and what we're going to do is make these, we can see this foundation, and we can make a slab or an isolated pad foundation or a wall foundation, which is actually the footing. Not sure why they named it that, but they did. So just like before, you click on here, you pull this down. Now this one you don't have, you got a bearing footing and a retaining footing, and you don't really have a lot of choices here. And I mean, they give you a little bit, but they always, Revit always wants you to make your own stuff, customize it exactly the way it should be in respects to whatever the heck you're building. Alright, so click on that, the first one, the bearing footing, click edit type, and we're going to edit this. And the little formula that I'm going to use, always want to duplicate this, and I'm just going to call this footing. And the formula that we're going to use is our 2xx, so whatever the thickness of our wall is going to be double that thickness. So this is going to be 16 inches, and then the height is going to be the same as whatever the thickness of our foundation wall is. So since it was 8 inches, this is also going to be 8 inches. Alright, so we got a footing now that is 16 by 8. And that is like the most generic footing calculation. I'm sure there's much more complicated things going on there, but you can see that. Now remember, this is just the name. Now we actually have to come down and change the parameters. So width parameter is not that anymore, it's going to be 16 inches. And thickness parameter is not going to be that anymore, it's going to be 8 inches. And we don't need to fix anything else. We don't need to contact the manufacturer or any of that stuff. We're just going to go ahead and click OK. Alright, so now once you have this thing selected, this is really cool about Revit. All you got to do is click the wall. Click all 4 walls, and bam, now we got a footing, a perfectly placed footing on all of our walls. I think that's gonna do it for this video. So starting out with our house, foundation is done.